Good morning. I tell you, I had quite the adventure getting here this morning. I had a moment of worry, not that whether or not I would be on time, but I allowed myself to stay in the space of realizing that the divine would move me here in time. And I arrived this morning in time. And for those of you who have ever watched an episode of Seinfeld and the way that Kramer entered a door, that's how I felt this morning. Like I had been flung through the door. And so it all ties together, I realize, in this idea of today's talk title of being blown away. Here we are at the 30th of September. I'm still trying to figure out where the year went. But I sat just thinking about where did the month of September go? And all of the things that have happened in our lives and in our world during this month. And I sat thinking, and I remembered for the first time in a while when I get the email or the text message from here that says, Kathy, what's your talk title? Normally there's that moment of, crap. What am I going to say? This time I was like, blown away. Here we go. A few weeks ago, I had a chance to travel to Overland Park, Kansas, which is just down the road a piece from Unity Village. And I am content to know that if I get within 100 miles of Unity Village, I don't care what I'm doing, I'm going to find some time. If I got to go sit over there in the middle of the night, I will do it. And so I broke away from my work companions, and they're like, where are you going? And I'm like, I got to go do something. I tell you, if you ever just want to have an adventure, take a bunch of non-Unity people to Unity Village. Because I realized I was not going to have a moment of peace unless I either told them where I was going or I consented to take them with me. And I told them, I said, for me, it's like going to what we called in the South when I grew up a filling station. I get an opportunity to just kind of pull in. Somebody skeets a little something on the windshield. I can see again. I sit there for a few minutes, and before I know it, the tank is full, and I am off again. And so I consented to take my 5 work companions to Unity Village with me. Yeah. It was amusing to me because I didn't tell them anything. I said, remember when I said I was going to go away last year, and then I went away again for graduation? This is where I went. And my director said to me, he said, this is interesting because every time you go away to this place, you come back and you're different. And I was like, different good? He said, well, I keep you around, so we'll go with that. And as we pulled onto the premises, all of the chatter about all the stuff that's going wrong back at the office, it was like being in a car with a bunch of kids and you gave them all 3 drops of Dimetapp. It was just quiet. And they're like, what are we going to do? I said, well, it's not a lot here to really do. I said, but I'm going to go walk the labyrinth. You all can go to the bookstores over there. If you don't make a lot of noise and draw attention, you can sit in the inn, and they probably won't ask you what your room number is, and just kind of go be. And interesting enough, none of them had ever walked a labyrinth. And so they're like, how do we do this? I'm like, said to myself, I don't really know how, I just do. And so I told him, I said, just follow me. It's not anything that we're going to do on a time schedule. You move through this at your own pace. You allow yourself to be drawn through it. And we did. We walked the labyrinth, and one of the folk in our party got to the middle and was like, how do I get out of this thing? I'm like, you got to go back the same way that you came. Well, he decided to do something different, only to wind back up at the middle. I was like, follow directions, please. And so we did this, and we got back in the car to go to dinner. And one of the people said, I am blown away by the way that this place feels. It's like moving into an atmosphere where the temperature, the light, everything is different. I see why when you come, it's the longest vacation you take all year long. And I'm like, yeah. And I sat on the plane ride back writing what turned into this talk. So the big idea behind being blown away is being willing to have a level of awareness to the impact of events and how they unfold in your life. Being willing to have a level of awareness, basically being tuned in to what's going on around you. If you talk to anybody between the ages of 18 and 30, they will say to you that you just got to be woke. And I'm like, my nephew says it to me every time he gets off the phone. He's like, stay woke. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. I can do that. And so this morning I have a few questions for you. Are you willing and available to just be moved? Are you willing and available to just be moved? And you have to say to yourself, and you have to say it to yourself, because these are directions, please follow the directions, that I am willing. I am available to being moved. When we do that, that in itself is the sweetest surrender. That means that we are willing to allow something around us to have a positive impact for our good on our very being. When I start to think about this idea, the words blown away, what is it? It's like a response to some stimulus in the channel. It's our reaction to what's going on around us. You think about it, you're driving along down the highway and all of a sudden everything in front of you stops. You know what you say. It's like that. Are we willing to be blown away in the most beautiful ways? You see, for so long, this for me was just an expression. It was something that we said, but what it is for me now, it's a recognition of how often those moments of awe and wonder find themselves in our midst. I had to ask myself in the process of this, what is it that blows me away? And for me, it's the simple things. It's the sound of a baby crying. It's the sound of children laughing. It's that subtle change in Florida that we know from summer to fall. What is it, 5 degrees? Those simple things. It's the quiet strength of a sage in our midst. It's the compassion that teachers operate with in the midst of 20 or 30 children that are not their own, but yet they choose to have a positive impact in their lives. It's the wisdom of the earth, the serenity of the sunrise, and the beauty of a whispered prayer. This morning, I knew that time was kind of maybe not on my side, but as I came over the bridge over the river, normally I get real concerned because I can't swim. And there was a part of me when I lived from fear that every time I went over a bridge, it was an opportunity to test what the Navy taught me and how to float. But this morning, when I got to the top of the bridge, I took my foot off the gas. And I told everybody around me to stay in their lane. And when you get to the top of the bridge, if you look out and to your left, you can see the boats coming down the channel. I've been over that bridge 100 times, never saw it. When you get to the very top of that bridge, if you just look to your left, you'll see where the sky touches the water. You look to the right, there's some other bridge that I got to figure out what that is and how to get to it. But there was so much beauty and simplicity surrounding me in a place where I always find myself. And I took the moment to say, okay, God, I am blown away because this has always been right here. But I was so consumed with whether or not the bridge was going to hold all of us and whether or not everybody around me remembered all the things in the driver's ed book and how to stay in their lane and whether or not I remembered how to remember how not to drown. And this morning, I just chose to be. And so, beloved, I want to invite you, as you live in the coming weeks, be willing to take your foot off the gas. Because you're already in motion. You will wind up in the place where you are going in time. Say to the people and the objects around you, everybody stay in your lane. Because I'm going to be distracted pleasantly for just a moment or two. I realized that just by taking a moment to look to the left, to look to the right, that I am now changed forever because I allowed a moment for my breath to just be taken away. You see, what I realized is about how time works in our lives. I realized this week, after last week was my one Sunday a month off. I blocked one Sunday where I ain't doing nothing for nobody. And I decided last Sunday that I was going to work and I'm going to church, and I was just as casual as I could be. I had on my favorite pair of capris and my favorite Life is Good t-shirt and my flip-flops. I got in my car and I pointed my car towards church. And by the time the third person called me from work, I just gave up on the idea that I was going to go to church for anything useful, and I turned around and I went to work. And I could choose to be frustrated and irritated and bothered and put out, which I did for a few minutes. But I realized that the life that I want to live, it's not out there somewhere waiting on me with a sign that says for sale or on hold. The life that I have always wanted to live is right here, right now. And I would be remiss in my duty as a human and as a minister to tell you that if we choose to seek one thing, and that one thing is the now moment, if we are willing to just be in all the places where we are, we would find that there is so much beauty, so much life right here, right now. It caused me to think about how things work together for our good. I realized that the idea of electricity has been here longer than the light bulb itself. It took the invention to make room for the discovery. This past Wednesday night, I sat in the midst of people reading a book which is not one of my favorites, but now it is. If you have ever tried to read Lessons in Truth and it didn't make a bit of sense to you, read it in the company of other people out loud. And let what you hear make sense. Let it make sense to your heart and to your soul. And someone in that group said that divine ideas are just hanging out. All we have to do is raise our consciousness and raise our awareness in such a way that what was once invisible becomes visible. I remember the first time somebody said that to me. I said, I'm a woman of color. I don't know nothing about this consciousness. We didn't have that in the hood. We had what my nephew said, you got to be woke and you have to pay attention. And I realized that what I had been doing all of my life is that I was worrying about what was or what was not yet. And my time in unity and time, those few minutes at the village, taught me how to breathe into the most miraculous moment I have right now. That blew me away. I realized that transformation does not have to come with a side of trauma and trouble as an appetizer. All I have to do in order to transform any moment is to be fully present. You see, I believe that when we are fully present, we teach the world how to be. I understand now what it means when we say, be the change that you seek. Do the thing that we've been waiting on other people to do. Do it. Because it could be that the other people we've been waiting on don't know how to do it. And they're waiting on us. That blows me away. What makes this idea of the things that blow us away, what makes it so special? I think that what makes them special is that they are often unexpected. One of the women that works with us, she just recently had a baby, and she brought that little ball of tiny cuteness into the office. And I watch people who are just so highly educated and they find themselves having arguments about things that don't matter. I saw them crumble in the middle of their time with this 8-pound little ball of joy. And I was like, why can't we work from there? Why can't we love from there? Why can't we live from there? All we have to do is to be on the lookout for those things that cause us to just stop in our tracks. And you may say to yourself, Kathy, why? And my response to you, beloved, is why not? You see, I can take conscious inventory of everything that comes at me on a daily basis. And I realize that the universe is working for my good. That God is not trying to trick me into doing something decent with my life. That the universe and everything in it is working for my good. You see, I can become so focused on frustrations and loss and perceived lack and anger that I forget to laugh. I can give in to my own stuff and be so fully out there and in there that there is no empathy or compassion in the words that I say, or I can simply say yes. Say yes to love. Say yes to every moment that I can. I can simply say yes to showing others how to do the same. I can say yes to being surprised. I can say yes to being in the company of other people, no matter how much alike or how different we know ourselves to be. I can choose to say yes. So if you are looking for moments to come out of that stupor that our world has thrown us into, if you want to do something truly social media worthy, if you are looking for your 15 minutes of internet or introspective fame, it's really very easy. Say yes. Yes to being blown away. Say yes to love. Yes to laughter. Yes to every moment that you have. Because here's the thing about those moments. We only get them once. They'll never come back around again for us in this existence. I've stood at too many memorial services and over too many open graves to not realize that now is all we have. Now is the time to be blown away. I bid you good journey, my friends, as you go across the bridges of life. I know that you will be safe as you take your foot off that gas and you look up, you look out, and you look around. I will listen for your laughter on the wind. I will listen for your song in the sunrise. And I know that it's going to be phenomenal because it already is. I am blown away by each of you. Unity of Merritt Island, I love you, and there is nothing you can do about it.